This special meeting of the Board of Los Angeles City Board of Public Works, Friday, March 12th, 2021. I'm Greg Good, President of the Board. Hope everyone is doing well and staying dry. Good afternoon, TJ.
Good afternoon, President Good. President Good, Vice President Garcia, President Pro Tem Davis, Commissioner Caloza, and Commissioner Villegas are all present. We do have a quorum. We are also joined by City Attorney Representative Mr. Ted Jordan. My name is TJ Knight. I'm the Assistant Executive Officer. We have two speaker cards under public comment, no neighborhood council commentary, and speaker cards under items 2, 12, 13, and 14. We may have had additional folks joining the meeting since I asked for comments on items. So that is all we have so far.
Okay, let's go ahead and take, you said we do have a couple of callers in for general public comment?
That's correct.
Okay, why don't we go ahead and take general public comment, TJ.
Thank you, President. Dr. Tom Williams, if you would unmute yourself.
I am. Dr. Tom Williams, LA 32 Neighborhood Council, Citizens Coalition for a Safe Community, TR Club Water Committee, and a few others. I have submitted written comments, and one of the comments applies to the general as to, is there any way to see what the written comments has been on past meetings and or present meetings of the Board of Public Works? That would be one thing, because we can't hear the written comments and we can't see them. You guys can, so I would highly recommend having a web page for the public comments, at least until we can meet in person. So that's one thing. There's also a matter that a database for various things under the Board of Public Works. I would highly recommend linking the Board of Public Works with the Department of City Planning through Zimus, which is online, been there for many years, and is very useful, provides neighborhood councils, council districts, all sorts of background, and links it through the APN numbers as to where it's going and what it is. So I'd highly recommend that the Department of Public Works and all offices, bureaus within it, be linked through a database that is compatible with and linked to Zimus. That's all. No more comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Williams. If you would kindly remute yourself by pressing *6. I believe we have one other public comment. Is Mr. Spindler, do you have a public comment? Okay.
Okay, I'll let my colleague speak. Yes, William R. Goat. Yes, so, yes, Mr. What happened? I unmuted you. Okay. So yes, Dr. Williams is quite correct. Now, your fellow animals at the planning commissions, Central Planning, Valley Planning, they all have Zoom-based meetings for Mr. Billy Goat. All as I do is I get onto Zoom, and I can see all of your faces. And unfortunately, they don't give me video privilege. So you're not able to see my horns and my fur and my tail as I talk. The first sentient animal to speak. What about the Pita Pig? The second sentient animal to speak. Yes, thank you. So let's talk about homeless cleanups. Where are you? Coronado Boulevard under the 101. Why hasn't Public Works picked up the garbage there? Where did you go? And over on Carondelet Street in San Marino. Where is Public Works picking up the garbage? Homeless garbage left. And all up and down the 101 freeway. Right now, Mr. Spindler's driving me now on the 101. By the way, don't try to go down the southbound 101 from Highland Avenue. It's going to take you 3 days. So again, how come you're not picking up your homeless garbage? But here's good news. Mr. Dratch is actually doing a very good job on cleaning
That's
up
2 minutes.
tagging.
If you'd please mute yourself, Mr. Spindler.
Can you unmute me? No, I have to mute you. Okay.
Okay, so I see 2 folks with their hands raised. Do you have comments on public comment, or do you have do these callers with their hands raised have comments on one of our agenda items? First, 631, if you would please unmute yourself and tell me what you would like to comment on.
Are you taking comments on 12?
On 12, no, we will get there though. Can you please
I mean, I'll make a general if you're not taking them on 12, but if you are taking public
we
comment.
are, just not at this time.
Okay.
We will take
Okay, I'll wait, no problem.
Okay, can you give me your name, ma'am?
Yeah, this is Joanne D'Antonio, CFAC,
Thank you.
and I'll put my hand up for 12. Thank you.
Thank you. And caller ending in 452, if you would please unmute yourself. And
Hi, this is Robert Reid. I also have comment on 12.
thank you, Mr. Reed. Is that right?
Rave, R-A-V-E.
Thank you, Mr. Reed. Okay, I have you down for 12. Caller ending in 403, if you would please unmute and identify yourself. What item you're speaking on? Caller in 403, if you would unmute yourself using *6. Or if you don't want to, that's fine too. We can come back to you.
Isn't that Mr. Spindler? Who's already...
Is it Mr. Spindler? Okay. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. That's all of our public comment.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Knight. So let's go ahead and get into the agenda. Item number 1 is approval of the minutes from Tuesday, March 2nd, 2021. Do I have a motion to approve?
So move.
Thank you, President Pro Tem Davis. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Colosa. Any objections or concerns, Commissioners Villegas or Vice President Garcia?
None for me.
All right. Hearing no objections, the minutes from Tuesday, March 2, 2021 are approved and adopted forthwith. So, folks, items 2 through 11 are all assessment hearings, or the approval and movement of assessment hearings. I'm going to take these together. These are approval of assessment hearings in CD11, CD14, CD5, CD11, CD11, CD12, CD2, CD5, CD11, and CD7. I believe Mr. Flamenco is here on the item. Good afternoon, Ruben.
Good afternoon. I thought we had a speaker who wanted to item 2.
Oh, that's right.
Yes,
Please.
yes, you're correct. Dr. Tom Williams, I believe you have a speaker card on item 2. If you please unmute yourself, pressing *6. Dr. Williams. Dr. Williams, are you still in the meeting? And do you wish to comment on item number 2? President, we can try after the item, or we can go ahead with the item. Dr. Williams is not responding.
We'll go ahead with the item. All right, Mr. Flamenco, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Ruben Flamenco, Bureau of Street Lighting. Items 2 through 7 and items 9 through 11 pertain to lighting districts which we are creating in conjunction with private development projects. Item 8 pertains to a lighting district which we are creating in conjunction with a community development block grant project. Ballots for items 2 through 11 were mailed on February 3rd, 2021. Ballots for items 2 through 11 must be received by the city clerk's office by Tuesday, March 23rd, 2021. We have not received any objections to date on items 2 through 11. We are requesting for the board to adopt and forward items 2 through 11 forthwith to City Council.
Thank you, Ruben. Any questions or comments, President Pro Tem Davis?
No inquiries from me at this point.
All right. Thank you, sir. Commissioner Wilson?
No questions for me. Thank you.
Thank you. And Commissioner Briggs?
And for me either. Thank you.
Okay. Vice President Garcia? Okay. All right.
Not for me either. Thank you.
Okay. So hearing no objections or concerns, do I have a motion to approve all these assessments?
So move.
Thank you, Commissioner Villegas. Do I have a second?
Commissioner Good, I'm sorry. Before we complete the voting process, I know TJ was going to try to see if we could get that public comment in. We really have to have that public comment in before we vote. Once we voted, the item is concluded, and it's really no longer appropriate to have public comment. So we have a motion, and it hasn't been voted on yet. So it is okay to take public comment now, but we should do that before the board concludes the matter.
So
I'll try one more time with that public.
Give them one more opportunity there, TJ.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, President. Thank you, Mr. Jordan. Is Dr. Tom Williams available? You did put in a request to make a comment on item 2. Dr. Williams?
Is that whose hand is raised on the Zoom screen here? No, that was Mr. Spindler. So,
Yes.
Mr. Spindler, hang on a second. Mr. Spindler, you haven't been called yet. So, but you did have your hand up. So if we're calling on Dr. Williams, he can make a comment. If he's not going to have a comment, then that's fine. Mr. Spindler had his hand up, so he should be called on as well.
Okay. Dr. Williams, if you're in the meeting and wish to comment on item 2, would you please unmute yourself?
Humans go first.
Mr. Spindler, it's not your turn.
Well, I'm telling my colleague.
Mr. Spindler, it's not your turn. I think we should assume that Dr. Williams is not going to have a comment. And
okay.
So you can now call on Mr. Spindler.
Okay, Mr. Spindler, you have your hands. You have your hand raised. Do you wish to comment on agenda item number 2?
Stop getting me in trouble. Shut up, puppet! Now, did you want to speak on the item? Yes, I did. All right. So follow the fucking rules. I'm sorry. Okay, yes. Don't hit me in my horn again. Ow, that hurt. Now, let me talk about these assessments. Yes. So according to Michael Colehouse, he writes a lot of shit about you. He doesn't like Mr. Good. He thinks he's bad. Yes. And so again, what you do is you take out a map and you gerrymander it. And then you put properties into it and you mail notices to government agencies that you know will never respond to you. Yes. And then you give it to Holly Walcott to make a decision on the election. So again, I can tell you the feds are looking into this stuff, what you've been doing. You take private property and mix it with public property on all of this stuff. Proposition 218. And then, when you have a majority vote, now Holly Walcott said to the FBI, I'm not going to approve any more of this unless the majority vote is by the private property owners. Ha ha ha! That's right. Mike Bonin has done this many times where he takes a majority of the public property, LAUSD, county, federal, state, and he makes majority votes. So he can ram these increases annually through you. to nonprofits in the private sector, yes. So again, keep up your illegal work, and thank you again, Mr. Jordan, for telling these people how not to spend time in prison with Mr. Weezer by denying public comment. And how do you submit a speaker card? You raise your virtual hand. Good puppet raised his virtual hoof
2 minutes.
4 times and was never called.
It's 2 minutes.
What kind of games are you playing there, Mr. Goody? Goody Dirt got it today.
It's 2 minutes, Mr. Spindler. Please mute your microphone.
You only get 2 minutes on the 9 items. Damn.
All right, thank you. I believe I have a motion on the floor from Commissioner Villegas to approve items number 2 through 11. Do I have a second to Commissioner Villegas' motion?
I'll second.
Thank you, Commissioner Caloza. Any objections or concerns, Vice President Garcia or President Pro Tem Davis?
None for me.
None for me.
Okay, thank y'all very much. Hearing no objections, items number 2 through 11, moving forward with assessment hearings to council, are adopted and approved forthwith. Thank you, Ruben, very much. To save you time, Ruben, also want to go ahead. We're going to continue. Item 14 today for a week, TJ. So I don't want you sitting around and waiting, Ruben.
Okay.
And I believe you got to go learn from that. So we're going to continue item 14 for a week. Got that, TJ?
I do. Thank you, President. Continue to 319.
Okay, great. So now let's go to item number 12. I know we have, I'm going to read the item into the record. And I know we have a number of callers. And then we will hear the presentation. All right. So item number 12 is in CD4. This is a tree removal 2782 and 2794 North Woodstock Road. Recommending the board, 1, find that this project is categorically exempt under Article 3, Section 1, Class 3, Category 1, and Class 32 infill of the city's Environmental Quality Act guidelines, and there is no substantial evidence the proposed project will have significant effect on the environment and is in compliance with the California Environmental Quality Act. 2, find that none of the exceptions to the use of categorical exemption as set forth in section 15300.2 of the state's equal guidelines applies. 3, specify that the Bureau of Street Services Urban Forestry Division located at 1149 South Broadway is custodian of the documents or other material that constitute the record of proceedings upon which the board's decision is based on. And 4, review and approve the request for a fee permit to remove 10 protected trees, which include 4 coast live oak trees and 6 California black walnut trees. Tree replacements are required. This item was continued from Friday, February 5th, 2021. The original board meeting was actually Friday, January 29th, 2020. Mr. Knight, I know we have some callers on this item. So if you don't, let's go ahead and let's hear from the public.
That's correct. Thank you, President Good. So we do have a number of callers on item 12. I just want to state for the record that I have distributed the written public comment for this item that we received from the Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy Group, and also Catherine Pakradami, and I apologize if I mispronounce your name. Our first commenter on item 12 is Dr. Tom Williams. Dr. Williams, if you are in the meeting, would you please unmute yourself for item 12? Okay, let's go to our next commenter on item 12. Paul Edelman. from Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy. If you're on the line, I believe you're caller 968. If you would unmute yourself, you have 2 minutes.
Hello, Commissioners. This is Paul Edelman. I'm the Deputy Director of Natural Resources and Planning for the Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy. Hope you're able to read the letter we submitted into the record, and it includes a couple of figures recommending some permanent restrictions. We're involved in this. The Conservancy is involved in this to create common good for the city. We want to solidify the permanence of this substantial amount of urban forest, both to protect the remaining trees, but also the replacement trees. So in conjunction with the MRCA, our goal is to achieve lasting public benefit. And in this case, we've made 0 changes to the project and have come to an agreement with the applicant and for voluntary conditions. Hopefully the record will also reflect a letter just submitted to the board from the Mountains Recreation and Conservation Authority that codifies and lists what condition we would like added to the record. In addition, we submitted an aerial photograph showing where this new deed restriction area would be. This compromise language allows the applicant to do what they desired to do behind the big deflection walls behind the house, but it also benefits the public permanently by prohibiting wildlife blocking fencing, and it permanently protects both the replacement trees and the majority of the protected trees on the hillside, the majority of both of those. So the Conservancy urges the board to specifically add this vital voluntary condition to the conditions of approval for the permit request before you. The exact condition language is clearly defined in the letter submitted by the MRCA today. It is long, but it's important that it all be included. That letter also includes a diagram showing the approximate restricted boundary with latitude and longitudinal points to be further refined with the applicant. We found out about an hour ago that there are some substantial deflection walls behind the project site, so the arrow we submitted is a little bit off, but the Latin long document is correct. To achieve these public benefits, Commissioners, it's imperative that the MRCA's condition language be incorporated in full. I know this is a tenuous process between the city and the applicant.
That's 2 minutes. You have 2 minutes for your comment, and you've reached that time allotment.
As a public agency, can I, Mr. Chair, can I request 1 more minute?
Commissioner Good,
One more sentence?
I would recommend that you get an extra minute to wrap up that thought.
I'll give them 1 minute.
Mr. Spindler, you will be shut down if you and out if you continue to talk out of turn. Yes, I would like to hear the remainder of Mr. Edelman's comments.
Just the key thing is that one condition language misstep and about 100% of the public benefit is lost. So please adopt the full MRCA condition language in their March 12th letter. And if the city attorney requires an adjustment, please see this condition, this voluntary condition to fruition, and to make sure that it's required to be checked off as the deed restriction is recorded prior to the issuance of any building permits. Thank you so much. I think this is an important compromise moving forward, and I'm here for any questions, and I'll be there through the remainder of the hearing. Thank you for the extra minute.
Thank you, Mr. Edelman. Is Lisa Smith in the meeting? If you are in the meeting, Ms. Smith, if you would unmute yourself, pressing *6.
Hi, yes, Lisa Smith is here.
Go ahead.
So I'm not sure at what concept or what you'd like me to address, but I just let you know that I'm here for any questions that you may have in regards to this case.
Thank you,
And
Ms. Smith.
I would defer to Elia Thompson, who is working on this project too, to further address the previous speaker. And if you have further questions, I'm here and I can answer any questions related to the report.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. Our next speaker is Elliot Thompson. If you'd please press *6 to unmute yourself.
President Good, prior to the comment coming in, I believe
Yes, hi, I'm sorry, this is Elia Thompson. Can you hear me?
Property owners, so they would not typically be subject to the 2-minute rule on public comment. This is in a sense, their permit application. So we would normally not impose the strict time limit as they're sort of the real party in interest here.
I see. Right, is the applicant, yeah. Thank you, Ted. Go ahead, Ms. Thompson.
Hi, good afternoon, Commissioners. Elia, E-L-L-I-A, Thompson. I do represent the property owner, and I'm working alongside Lisa Smith on this project. So just real quick, because my understanding, previously there was some interest in understanding the history of this property and what it has taken to get to where we are today. So I'm going to give a quick 30, 40-second overview. This property in totality is about 1.5 acres, just shy of that. We've been working for 7 years now to get 2 single-family homes built on this property that consisted previously of 5 different lots. It's now been changed into 2 separate lots. Again, we started, I had a baby right when we started, and she's now in the 2nd grade. So that gives you some understanding of how long it's been going on. So we initially had put in a request to have 4 homes. We reduced that to 3. We further reduced that to 2. The 2 homes were farther up on the hill with a lot of back and forth with both the MRCA as well as the planning, Mulholland Design Review Board and the planning department. We further brought the 2 homes down close to the street so as to reduce the footprint and the impact to the site. We have worked a great deal in the past with MRCA for the first restrictive covenant easement agreement that they wanted, and we worked with them on that. And we went through the process with Mulholland Design Review Board. That took several years. I believe we had 4 or 5 hearings in that process. We had a haul route hearing. We had a lot line adjustment that approval, because we got it right at the beginning of COVID, took nearly the entirety of 2020 to get through that and get the 2 lots properly completed and then recorded. Unfortunately, no easy feat right now with everything being closed. And then we were in a position to present the 2 final lots with Lisa Smith, our arborist, to obtain the approval to remove some of the protected trees that are basically right in the footprint area of where we need to site these homes, and then provide all the replacement trees, which we're doing to code. And again, where these homes are sited, it has been the subject of 7 years and a lot of compromises on the part of my client, a lot of work with MRCA and the planning department to get us to where we are today. We recently were contacted by MRCA wanting a secondary restrictive covenant, and the gist of it was they wanted to make sure that the trees that were protected were protected. So we've agreed not to put any sort of secondary structure as would normally be a property owner's right in terms of an ADU or a guest house or something like that. There won't be any kind of walled habitable structure. We've also agreed to not have any kind of fencing in the rear yard whatsoever, and have gone back and forth. So it's been a long journey, but we're happy to be here. We'd like to get this approved. We'd like to be able to move forward. And I think there was a question previously of mitigation. To be very clear, and we did write a very short letter just kind of touching on the CEQA guidelines and what's determined as mitigation. We're following the rules. There is no deterrent from what the requirements are to replace these protected trees. We're replacing every single one in the manner that is mandated by the rules and regulations of the city, by urban forestry, by planning, and so forth. And this shouldn't be considered a requirement to have a mitigation negative deck, because we are following the rules and there is no deviance from any rules, planning, zoning, urban forestry, anything. So again, we're happy to have reached an agreement with MRCA, and we just would like this final approval to go so that my child doesn't hit middle school before we're actually able to build. And we do really appreciate everyone's time, and I'm available for any questions that you have. Thank you so much.
Commissioner Good, this is Ted. I hate to interject myself here. I haven't read the condition that that was referred to. Although I think Mr. Knight has now emailed that to us. I just want to make sure that the property owner understands and is, you know, looking at the same document that we have and could, you know, articulate if the board chooses to add this as a condition, that they are in agreement with this condition. Because, you know, if the board wants to add this, it should be clear whether or not the property owner agrees that this can be added. It's one thing to have, you know, the two sides to have a private agreement that is enforceable as between each other. That happens all the time. And in many cases, whatever the subject matter of the private agreement is, it's not baked into the city's condition. So if there's a dispute about the condition, it's between the two private parties. If this is put into our permit, we are now interjected into this, and now we are obligated to perhaps do certain things as well. And again, I haven't read the condition. So, but I think it is important to know whether or not the property owner agrees to this exact condition. And if they have if they've agreed to it, do they have a written agreement that says that, something that they both signed, rather than, you know, the verbal representations that we may get here.
Do you want me to speak to that, sir?
Yes. I mean, they said that this is a voluntary condition that you've agreed to.
Sure. I'm sorry. It's just, you know, staring at my phone and I'm kind of talking into a blank space. It's kind of hard to know.
No, I apologize.
It.
No, I agree. And I'm sorry. It's much easier for us in the actual Zoom meeting. So.
Again, I've known Mr. Edelman and Mr. Weinstein for years. We have gone back and forth in the last day or so. I believe that what they said is what we've agreed to. There's certainly an attachment that has longitude and latitude. You know, again, this is all kind of done in a vacuum, so I don't know for sure, but I trust Mr. Edelman to be a respectful an honest person, so I think that he's agreeing to, I mean, he sent you what we'd agreed to. We do not have an agreement at this time because, again, we've been kind of going back and forth in terms of what both sides would agree to. Also, while we initially had an agreement in terms of the restricted area, and that we intend to honor that 100%, the lots were not divided and recorded properly until just a few months ago. So there is a little bit that needs to be maneuvered, you know, with the final paperwork. But there is not an actual signed agreement at this point. We probably, Mr. Edelman can pontificate to this, but we're going to need some sort of surveyor or actual, you know, meets and bounds description of what this area is before it can be agreed to. So I don't know if that helped or if that further complicated things, but in general, I've worked with Mr. Weinstein, Mr. Edelman for quite some time. I do think we have an agreement in concept, but there isn't a signed agreement, and there probably won't be until we can get, like I said, a surveyor and a real exhibit that the recorder's office would accept.
Well, okay. I think we're almost there.
How
the board is being asked to take an action right now, and the board has been asked to put a condition in its approval, a condition that once it's there, and the condition in one part reads, no city permits shall be granted without proof of recordation of such a covenant. The comment that we had from the previous speaker talked about building permits. The Board of Public Works has no authority over building permits. Others do, we don't. So I'm just wondering whether it might make sense for you to reach that final agreement, even though I have no doubt you will, but you're not there yet.
Ted, here's what I'd like to do right now is let's hear the rest of the public comment, and then let's talk through a next step. Okay.
Okay.
All right, TJ, who's up?
Thank you. Thank you, President. Thank you, Ms. Thompson. Joanne D'Antonio, if you are in the meeting, if you would please unmute yourself, pressing *6.
Hi, this is Joanne D'Antonio. I'm a member of CFAC. I made this comment prior to this conversation we just heard, which sounds promising. And I just want to remind everyone that Los Angeles spends money on reports like the LA San Biodiversity Report and Wildlife Corridor Study. And we designate projects as categorically exempt from CEQA, but they do add up. And maybe one doesn't seem like so much, but then if we add them together, there is significance. And the public pays for those environmental reports, and then we pay again for procedures like we're hearing today. So if a wildlife corridor goes through a property, then we should have to respect it. And I agree there should be a written agreement. And otherwise, we're going to have a city of environmental free-for-all, and those of us that care about the environment really should find a more suitable place to live. So I think that this is promising, and I agree that we should wait until this is signed and then grant the necessary variances. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. D'Antonio.
Thank you. Do we have Robert Brave in the meeting? If you are available, please press *6 to unmute.
Great, yes. I am a neighbor and just here in support of the MRCA findings. I live adjacent to this property, and we have family of deer that pass through this corridor regularly, and this is their path through the hills. So I do think that this agreement should be drawn up and signed before any building permit issuance is allowed, and if possible, before this board agrees to anything. I think that this should be handled appropriately. I am a little concerned about the development, and I know there's not a lot I can do about that at this point. 4 homes on this lot would have been completely out of control, and 2 even seems like too much, but anything that can be done to mitigate the environmental impact and the future development in areas of the protected tree zone, I'm absolutely in support of.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rave. So we have a couple of folks with their hands raised. Are there folks who I have not yet called upon who wish to comment on item 12? So I'm going to call out the numbers 135. Your hand is raised. Do you wish to comment on item 12? If so, please unmute. *6 to unmute. Okay, caller ending in 403. If you have your hand raised, if you wish to comment on item 12, please press *6 to unmute.
Yes.
Caller ending in
Yeah,
403.
sorry, I might have hit the wrong button previously.
Well, that's my number, right? Yep, yes. So again, thank you again to the good folks at the Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy, the only environmental agency that protects my fellow animals from the fucking developers and the creeps down at City Hall. 2 houses is too many. There should only be 1 house, 800 square feet, with a tiny cabin and a little tiny area where you raise little goats. Like Meghan Markle and Prince Harry, where they raise chickens. Why can't you buy a nice piece of property and put a tiny house on it and have a large area to farm? Why do you have to build and build overdevelopment in a fire zone and now a protected area where Bambi and his friends are going around? I can't believe that Mr. Good and Mr. Davis would try to kill a bunch of innocent fucking deer just to get a couple of dollars more in their pocket for tax payments. So we want an agreement. And Mr. Jordan taught Mr. Spinner the secret Masonic handshake of Eric Garcetti. So we want this agreement signed under penalty of perjury and a Masonic handshake available on YouTube so we all can see it. So we know it's enforceable. These developers must be stopped. They must be controlled. And Mr. Weezer also should be on this call because Mr. Weezer knows the truth about this project. He does. Weezer knows everything. And is he going to talk? Mr. Turner keeps telling him not to talk, so he continues to remain silent. His constitutional right.
2 minutes. That's 2 minutes, Mr. Spindler. Please press star 6 to mute yourself.
But I gave an additional minute to that nice gentleman, too, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Spindler. So our next caller with their hand raised ends in 890. 890. If you wish to make a public comment on item 12, please press star 6 to unmute yourself. Caller ending in 890 with your hand raised. Okay, our next caller with their hand raised, if you wish to make a comment on item 12, caller ending in 631, please press star 6 to unmute yourself. Okay, caller ending in 356, you have your hand raised. If you wish to make a comment, please press star 6 to unmute yourself. We're on item 12.
I already spoke. This is Joanne D'Antonio.
Okay, great. I'm going to lower all hands because it seems like...
hi, this is Elliot Thompson. You just called me, number 356.
Oh, yes. Do you have additional commentary, Ms. Thompson?
Yeah, I just wanted to respond to a couple of things. I mean, first of all, someone said that there were variances. No, there aren't. There are no variances. We are here simply to get a permit so that we can take out the few protected trees that are in the footprint of this building and replace with the required number of protected trees. All other administrative approvals, processes have all been, we've gone through all of them. We've gotten our approvals. The only thing before the board at this point is the tree removal and tree replacement. So I just want to be clear for anyone who might be confused about that. The other thing, too, to be very clear, there is already an agreement in place for the property that surrounds, for a wide swath of property in the rear and around the entirety of both lots. What has been requested of us a second time is to basically give up the right to put any kind of structure, walled structure, habitable structure, or any kind of fencing for the rest of the rear yard. So in terms of there being an agreement, there is already an agreement. It has not been recorded. It couldn't be recorded by the recorder's office until the lot line adjustment was completed and we had two separate lots. Otherwise, it didn't make any sense and it would have been voided. So there's already an agreement between the property owner and MRCA for an entire perimeter swath of land surrounding these two lots, period, to allow the animals to be able to move freely. What has been requested of us the second time is to not have any kind of fence in the rear, not have any allowance of any kind of walled or habitable structure in the rear, to which we agree to. Again, the finer details will be hammered out in a final agreement with a surveyor exhibit and so forth, but we do not want this to be an additional delay. As I made clear when I first started speaking, it's been 7 years. We've done everything we are supposed to do, and we would like to proceed. And by the way, the agreement I spoke about that MRCA and my client came to years ago, the condition of approval in the Mulholland Design Review approvals are such that we can't get our building permit issued until that agreement is codified and recorded against the property. So there's already a protection in place, and the permits can't be issued until that happens. So again, we stand by our agreement with MRCA. Paul and Garrett know where I work. We will codify this secondary agreement as well. But we already have restrictions on us. And again, it's been 7 years. We really appreciate being able to get through this final process. And then we'll do what we need to do with MRCA so we can eventually get our building permits. And I thank everyone for their time.
Thank you, Ms. Thompson.
Thank you, Ms. Thompson. So we've had a couple additional callers into the meeting who have raised their hand since I lowered everyone. So we're on item 12. And is caller 990 Would you like to speak on item 12?
Yes,
So,
please.
okay. Thank you. Please go ahead.
Hi, this is Diana with Urban Woodland Watch. We submitted a letter for the record that I hope was delivered to the commissioners. First of all, I just want to correct something that was just put in the record. Today, the board is not just approving the tree removal permit, you are also approving the categorical exemption. Which brings me to my first point. We really can't believe the project is categorically exempt. First, it's located on a wildlife travel route between the Bolmar and Briar Summit habitat blocks that has been mapped by the Conservancy. Second, this is an oak walnut woodland. The presence of walnut trees and oak trees make it so. And that fits the definition of a sensitive natural community, whether the understory has been degraded by activities such as brush clearance or not. Oak walnut woodland has a global conservation status rank of G3, vulnerable at moderate risk of extinction. Impacts to sensitive natural communities or oak walnut woodlands are measured in terms of the area affected, not the number of trees. Mitigation for impacts to these sensitive natural communities usually involves something along the lines of a permanent protection or restoration of a similar habitat at a specified ratio, and that ratio is usually 2 to 1 in area. This is not accomplished through provision of replacement trees on the site through the protected tree ordinance. So the problem here is the city is not following the rules. And just getting off by the small area that has been already proposed but not yet signed and agreed to by the applicant does not make up for the 2 to 1 in area, does not make up for the sensitive natural community. We have to treat these woodlands as important as they really are. However, adopting the compromise proposed by the MRCA as a condition to approving this project is a step in the right direction, commissioners. It's a step in the right direction. But to avoid further conflict with the community, the item should be continued until the MRCA and the applicant signs and records an agreement. I was in front of this board years ago where the applicant's attorney gave a verbal agreement and then it was approved, and what happened? The applicant changed his mind. And so the project moved forward not as it was intended by the commissioners who approved it.
That's 2
so
minutes.
I urge you
Diana.
to continue this. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So we have 2 more callers. Caller ending in 990. Caller ending in 990. If you would please press *6 to unmute.
Hi, this is Lisa Smith, the arborist.
Okay, do you have additional information you'd like to provide, Ms. Smith?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So I understand the nature of this area, the whole Mulholland corridor being an area that has black walnut trees. And the thing to recognize is that the owners are mitigating 4 to 1. And they have this is an 1.5 acres of land, and they are dedicating about 6% of it to not being developed, about 65% of it. And of that upper portion, there are not accessible areas that are covered in the black walnuts and some oaks that are identified on earlier surveys and in my report too. And so not only are they mitigating by putting in new black walnuts at a 4 to 1, and they have a bond required to protect these and help them to be established and thrive. And so that is going to be adding to the black walnut. The ones that are being removed at the bottom at the street level are, if you look at the photographs in the report, they're in poor and decrepit shape. They're falling over. Some were dead. Some are in poor condition. Some were okay. One was a nicer one, but most of them were small. In fact, the little 2 oaks, one was a 4-inch and one was a 5-inch. They were growing out of a railroad tie. So they were not in a premier location. The one oak, that's the premier oak, the applicant has moved and shifted the entire project to retain that. I said, you got to keep this tree. This is your stellar oak at the corner. So they
recognize. That's why they love this area. They love that. They've dedicated land to MRC, the resource. They've also put in mitigation. They're putting in larger size oaks. They're doing all of these things to recognize that this is, you know, we live in LA for the woodland area. So I will say that I understand this, but they also understand, and we're taking the very lowest portion of the lot, only about 30% of that acre and a half. The other is being retained, protected in place, new trees are being installed. So I guess that's about it, if I can answer other questions.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. We have one more caller with their hand raised, ending in 135. Caller ending in 135, if you would please press *6 to unmute, and we're on item 12.
Hello, this is Garrett Weinstein for the Mountains Recreation and Conservation Authority. Sorry, I was trying to get on earlier. I had some technical difficulties with my phone. I wanted to offer a bit of a clarification as to the nature of the covenant that the MRCA is recommending and that Elliot Thompson has already stated that the applicant agrees to. These covenants and the language which we've submitted in our letter is substantially similar to what we typically submit to the planning department for Mulholland Design Review Board approvals. This is a recommendation made by the MRCA and a voluntary condition by the applicant, but it is not a private agreement that the city is asked to be party to. I know that there are issues with that. The agreement is essentially the applicant, taking this condition on to fulfill it in a way of addressing the concerns expressed by the Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy and numerous other commenters on this permit, on these projects, regarding the impacts of removing the protected trees. This is a way of ensuring a bit of permanent protection to the replanted trees, and assuring that this is handled responsibly. And it's really just a way for the project to move forward. The actual covenant process, and I can elaborate more on this if the board wants me to. But we work with the applicant to get it recorded, usually prior to plan check. And that is typically if things go well. And so if the board has any questions for me about the nature of our covenant recommendation, and I want to say that the planning department typically makes changes to our suggested language. We believe that this language is the best way to codify this voluntary condition, but the board does have the power to make changes if you deem it necessary.
Thank you, Mr. Weinstein.
All right.
So we have one caller who has raised their hand. Caller ending in 356. Do you have comment on item 12?
Hi, Commissioners. Again, this is Elliot Thompson. I thought what might be helpful is if I read into the record, since we're all kind of in a black box and nobody can really see anything, if I read into the record the language that Mr. Edelman and Mr. Weinstein proposed to myself and the clients, and we agreed to this morning so that we can all be clear. And the language is such: applicant shall record a restrictive covenant on the deed of each subject property, assessor parcels 5570-028-029 and 5570-028-030, in favor of the Mountains Recreation and Conservation Authority, MRCA, a local public agency, over the portions of the property depicted as expanded deed restricted areas on the diagram titled Exhibit A, dated March 12, 2021, accompanying this letter. No city permit shall be granted without proof of recordation of such a covenant and a letter of acceptance from the MRCA. Said acceptance shall not be unreasonably withheld or delayed by MRCA. Applicant shall provide the MRCA with a current title report for each respective property. The property restricted by the additional deed restriction areas defined by said covenant shall prohibit grading, with exceptions noted below, walled or habitable structures, removal of protected trees, animal keeping facilities, and fencing. The covenant with respect to the additional deed restriction areas shall specifically allow for minor and remedial grading, children's play structures, gardening, the construction and maintenance of a gazebo, and the removal of non-protected trees. The covenant shall also expressly allow for fuel modification and the cultivation and irrigation of plants native to the Santa Monica Mountains. The conditions of the original deed restrictions via covenant agreed to as voluntary conditions of approval for DIR-2014-4052 DRB SPP MSP and DIR 244056 DRB SPP MSP are not affected by the conditions of these additional deed restriction areas. To be clear, we completely agree with this condition and have no issue whatsoever if the board wishes to put this condition in its record as a condition of approval for today's proceedings. Thank you again, and I have nothing further to say unless you have questions for me.
Mr. Jordan? Is that it on comment, Mr. Knight?
Actually, President, I've had two additional speakers. One has already spoken. I don't know if caller 990.
This is a continuation of the back and forth. I think we can hold on that.
Okay.
So yeah.
Thank you.
And unless we have further questions, Mr. Jordan. So let me just say this to folks. I am encouraged by the spirit of collaboration and solution searching that has led us to this literally very moment. I'm also sympathetic and empathetic, Ms. Thompson, to the timing. I will say that fair, good, or not, we haven't seen it since 2014. In fact, we've only been looking at this issue for a couple of weeks, and so and I've got documents flying at us literally right up until this meeting started. Which we're all big boys and girls, but these are decisions that of import, as you certainly can speak to. Mr. Jordan, before we go further, we'd just like to know, are there options relative to what is your take on possible options to incorporating the language of this agreement into a report today?
Well, in no particular order, in terms of thoughts and comments, I do appreciate the property owner very, very clearly, without reservation, expressing their acceptance of literally the exact wording of the 4-paragraph condition that MRCA has asked that we include as a condition of your tree removal permit. So that's helpful. One concern I have is that in the first paragraph of the condition that we just had read to us, it says no city permits shall be granted without proof of recordation. The only permitting authority really that the board has, at least so far, is the tree removal permit. So it's not the board's authority to approve or issue or not approve or not issue building permits. This is a tree removal permit, and this is a condition that would be a condition associated with the issuance of a tree removal permit. So, I mean, the covenant that the parties have agreed will be prepared and recorded. It may have all kinds of things, but I'm still not quite sure how the board's authority here is purported to go beyond anything other than whether or not the board issues a tree removal permit. One option would be to simply have a condition prior to the issuance of a tree removal permit. The applicant shall record a covenant consistent with the March 12, 2021 letter provided to the board by the MRCA and agreed to on the record by the applicant. So it's a very short condition. It's just sort of what I just said. It doesn't go into all the details here, but we're referring to this particular condition that we just had read to us. That also refers to a map that was attached. Doesn't have the meets and bounds. So I think that would be an option. Another option is to continue the item for a week and let some of these details be sorted out, and maybe a chance to rewrite a condition in the form that is more appropriate for a Board of Public Works tree removal permit as compared to approval that may be obtained from the planning department. So I know I'm kind of going all over the place here, so I'm not sure if that was helpful. Another option is to simply approve the recommendations as is. The parties have a private agreement between the two of them. If one party fails to abide by that agreement, I'm sure they'll see each other in court, and the city would not necessarily be a party to that action. That's. I think one thing is very clear is the parties have reached an agreement. Seems to be a very fair agreement. I think that would resolve a lot of the issues that have been raised at this meeting. So I don't want to do anything to undo it or stop it. It's just not entirely clear to me, since we've only had like a very, very short time to take a look at this, how exactly that fits into a Board of Public Works tree removal permit approval, other than maybe the most broad statement that prior to the issuance of a tree removal permit, the applicant shall record a covenant as described in the March 12th, 2021 letter that's part of our. So that may be the cleanest way for the board to act if it wanted to act right now. Otherwise, I'm afraid we're going to have to get into start wordsmithing in a way that's appropriate for a Board of Public Works tree removal permit condition.
Okay. All right.
But I would be interested in, the parties have spent a great deal of time working out a very detailed and thorough agreement. So if you want, you might ask them for comments on what I just said.
Well, actually, would be curious as to both parties. We'll ask Ms. Thompson and Mr. Weinstein, feelings about that language, or language being amended language to, and I'm aware, folks, including Hector, that we haven't done a presentation yet. I want to just understand. I want to talk through the procedural stuff before we get into that. That language that Mr. Jordan just walked through, what would be your reaction to that, Ms. Thompson and Ms. amending language to the report, Ms. Thompson and Mr. Weinstein?
Sure. Can you hear me? This is Elliot Thompson.
Yeah.
So I believe what you're saying, and there were several things, and I believe what you're focused on is that the tree permit would not issue until proof of the recorded agreement covenants is presented. Is that what the condition would be, roughly, more or less?
Yes.
We have no issue with that, and I don't think Mr. Edelman does, but I'll let him speak for himself.
Okay. Mr. Edelman or Mr. Weinstein?
This is Garrett Weinstein, the MRCA. We would have no issue with assigning the condition of the tree permit, just on the condition of recording the covenant and just referencing the letter and the condition language. That works for us just as well.
Okay. All right. Thank you both.
President Good, if I may, I apologize for raising up an issue that's not exactly on this. Just for clarification purposes, I have kind of interacted with and known Mr. Edelman for a number of years now, just because there's a lot of issues with Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy has an interest in things that the Board of Public Works is doing, and I know the Mountains Recreation Conservancy Authority now is presenting this letter, and perhaps Mr. Edelman or Mr. Weinstein could just clarify. I want to make sure that this fully addresses the issues, because we've had comments from Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy on the one hand, Mountains Recreation Conservancy Authority on the other hand, and perhaps it's my own personal lack of understanding as to how those two different entities interact with each other. I want to make sure this addresses all of the issues, including issues that were raised by Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy, because I don't think it's in the board's interest to, sort of satisfy one but not the other. And maybe by definition, if you satisfy one, you have satisfied the other. I would like some clarification on that myself.
Mr. Edelman?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes, the Conservancy is satisfied with that condition, linking the MRCA's condition language to the issuance of the tree permit. Bullseye, perfect. We're all on the same page.
So that addresses both MRCA, I mean, and I share Mr. Jordan's just slight confusion, not confusion, but just like lack of clarity about the interaction or relationship between MRCA and Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy relative to an agreement like this.
Yes, it does. In this case, it's the Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy as the state planning agency making comments, and it's the MRCA as a local government agency implementing that condition language.
Excellent. Commissioner Good, I'm satisfied. A bit of a teaching moment for me, so thank you, Paul.
Likewise, and yes, thank you, Paul, very much. All right, Mr. Benuelos, you've been very patient. You there?
Yes, I'm here. Yes, come in.
Good afternoon, sir. Thank you so much. Why don't you proceed with the presentation at long last? Thank you.
Yes, good afternoon, President Good, Commissioners, Hector Banuelos with Streets LA Urban Forestry Division. What we have before us is a request for a fee permit to remove 10 protected trees, which include 4 coast live oaks and 6 Southern California black walnuts at 2782 and 2794 North Woodstock Road. That's in the Mulholland Scenic Parkway Specific Plan area in Council District 4. The applicant is proposing to construct 2 single-family residences on 5 undeveloped lots that were subsequently divided to 2 lots. Each lot measuring approximately 28,800 square feet and 19,350 square feet, respectively. The homes will have a residential floor area of approximately 3,700 square feet, and there are 13 protected trees growing at 2782 Woodstock, which 6 are proposed for removal. And we have 12 protected trees on 2794 Woodstock, of which 4 require removal. The 6 trees at 2782 Woodstock consist of 2 oak trees, coast live oak trees, and 4 walnuts. And the 4 trees on 2794 Woodstock consist of 2 coast live oaks and 2 California black walnuts. The trees are located within and directly adjacent to the house footprint and driveways of the proposed homes, and therefore require removal in order to allow the applicant to construct proposed dwellings. If approved, the applicant shall be required to plant a minimum of 8 24-inch coast live oak trees and 16 15-gallon or as large container size available of the Southern California black walnut trees at 2782 Woodstock, and 8 24-inch box-sized coast live oaks and 8 15-gallon or as large container size available of the Southern California black walnut trees at 2794 Woodstock. The Community Forestry Advisory Committee, the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment, and Council District 4 were notified of the tree removal permit request. The Urban Forestry Division did not receive any correspondence from the council office in opposition or in support of the project. And the Department of City Plan did prepare a notice of exemption on the project, declaring the project is category exempt per Class 32 of City CEQA guidelines. That concludes the presentation. I'm here to answer any questions the board may have.
Thank you, Mr. Benuelos. Appreciate your work on the item. Colleagues, let's open this up for our discussion. Vice President Garcia, any questions or comments?
Thank you, President Good. I won't ask more questions. There was so much more that was said previously, but I do have just 2 clarifying concerns. One is, I read on the board report that Council District 4 was notified back in August 25th or 2020. I believe since then we have a new administration in that council office. Has the new council office been briefed on this?
Yes, they have. As a matter of fact, I was in communication with them yesterday, and we're kind of going back and forth. But they're not really opposed. They're not opposed to the project. They're kind of, I guess, they're in support of reaching an agreement, of the applicant reaching an agreement with the MRCA, and hopefully the habitat will be less, minimized. The impact will be minimized, and the wildlife corridor can proceed as was intended.
Okay. Okay, I just had more of that procedural question, but I'm glad they know they're up to date, and based on what your answer is, that they're waiting for the agreement between the two parties, right?
Basically, yes.
Okay, thank you. That's it for me, President Good.
Thank you, Vice President Garcia. President Pro Tem Davis, any questions or comments? You're muted, Mike.
Yeah, I kind of heard everything from all of the stakeholders that were discussing the issues. The MRCA and our position to extend the motion, the item, until they sign the agreement. Is that, Mr. Banuelos, something for which you think we need to have some concern? I don't know, maybe it would be an issue of which maybe the city attorney would have an opinion on that. But I guess would like to hear from the Bureau about that.
I'll defer to the city attorney on that.
Okay.
Well, one of the options, Commissioner, that we're talking about is seeing if there's a way, in view of how hard the parties have worked, and they're both very, very clearly in agreement on the exact wording of the detailed wording of the conditions that we're being asked to do here. To allow the board to go forward today to add a condition to the issuance of a tree removal permit that, while it doesn't necessarily, it wouldn't be the word for word, 4-paragraph, covenant that we had read out loud to us. It would simply be more something along the lines of a condition that would say, prior to the issuance of the city's issuance of the tree removal permit, the applicant shall submit proof of the recordation of a restrictive covenant on the deed of each subject property. We could list the assessor parcel numbers in favor of the Mountains Recreation Conservancy Authority, as described in the letter dated March 12th, 2021, that was submitted to the board at this hearing.
So we can impose an amendment to the motion to designate that you just discussed.
Yes. So if you wanted to move along those lines, and I believe, if I didn't misunderstand, the parties have all said that they would be okay with that. Sure. It would be there'd be a motion to amend the Streets LA report that you have before you to add that additional condition, which I just sort of read out loud to you, and I'd be happy to email it to our Assistant Executive Officer.
Thank you very much. That is precisely what my inquiry was targeting. And Mr. President, I'd like to add that to the motion, if you will, for the consideration of the board.
Okay, we can go through, thank you, Mike. Let's go through the rest of the questions real quick too, okay?
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Carosa?
Oh, thank you, President Good. I don't have anything further to add to the discussion. I appreciate the applicant and all the public comment that was given. There are a lot of questions answered that I had asked the last time this item was continued, that I think shed a lot more light on the process thus far, what concessions have been made. I asked about the background and other kind of mitigations that have occurred, and it sounds like there have been a few. So it sounds like there's been at least a good compromise put on the table here that I appreciated hearing and being outlined by our city attorney as well. So I don't have any questions. Thank you, President Good.
Thank you, Commissioner Carosa. Commissioner Villegas.
Thank you. I appreciate also all of the folks that attended today's meeting to make public comment. And I appreciate also Green Homes LLC participating in today's meeting, and the representative, their attorney, Elia Thompson. Thank you in advance for sending us the letter that provided good context for all of us commissioners to make these decisions. They're layers upon layers, and it helped really explain what was before us. I also appreciate Mr. Edelman's letter that we received, or that the board received at 1:24 p.m. and that our commission received at 2:06 p.m. I mean, 2:06 p.m., something like that. Or I forget the exact time, but it was after we started. I just wanted to make that note for the record. But I thank everybody that's participating today, because it both acknowledged the agreement and the amendment that's going to be referred to as this amendment. So I appreciate both of you taking the time to negotiate and to settle this. I think that the continuance of a week, or maybe it was a little over a week, it certainly helped iron out issues that were still pending. I know I had the time to be able to meet with some members of the public to hear their perspective. I think it's important that items that are before our board are under our purview and are under our authority. So I really appreciate Mr. Jordan clearing that up for us. I do want to just make a motion to approve our board letter and to make reference to the amendment condition as described in the letter from the MRCA that Mr. Edelman and that Ms. Elia Thompson agreed to.
Okay. And okay, so I want to echo what you said. I think everyone really, for lack of a better way to put it.
Speaker, please keep yourself muted.
Please keep yourself muted or see yourself removed from the meeting. You will be given every opportunity that you are required to be given, and that is it. Everyone really rolled up sleeves to Teresa's point up until 1:24 in the PM today. I want to also just echo my appreciation for the level of engagement on all sides of this, not the least of which included Mr. Benuelos and Commissioner Villegas for involvement. So I would second that motion to amend with an additional condition. Ted, how do we need to do? I mean, did you happen to write that language down?
Well, I did write something down. President Good, I can read to you what I wrote down, which would be, I think the intent of Commissioner Villegas' motion, but so I'll read it slowly, but I actually emailed it to you as well. So the additional condition to be added would be as follows. Prior to the city's issuance of the tree removal permit, applicant shall submit proof of the recordation of a restrictive covenant on the deed of each subject property, assessor parcel numbers 5570, 028, 029, and 557, 028, 030, in favor of the Mountains Recreation and Conservancy Authority, MRCA, as described in the March 12, 2021 letter from the MRCA that was submitted to the Board of Public Works at its hearing on March 12, 2021, and expressly agreed to at the hearing by the applicant. I would urge our Streets LA staff to make absolutely certain that we have the right assessor parcel numbers here. I realize in the rush of things, digits can get transposed. In fact, I can see now that what I just read to you, I had the wrong number, which is embarrassing, but it does illustrate the point. So other than that embarrassing typo.
And you're working hard, don't worry. Did everyone hear that. If someone in this Zoom has an objection to that, I want to hear it, please, now.
So move.
Okay, well, real
I,
time.
I think it would be good to get the verbal assent
Yeah,
of
that-
the MRCA representative and the Farm Commission representative.
MRCA and Ms. Thompson. Here, for kicks, I'm going to read it again, and I'm going to read it loud. Nothing personal, Ted, but I like being loud. Ms. Thompson, Mr. Edelman, Mr. Weinstein, Mr. Benuelos, please open your ears and listen very carefully. The proposed amendment to the proposed amending condition to item number 12 that Commissioner Villegas has motioned to approve is as follows. Prior to city's issuance of the tree removal permit, applicant shall submit proof of the recordation of a restrictive covenant on the deed of each subject property, assessor parcel numbers 5570-028-029 and 557-028-030. Wait. Backtrack.
You left out a 0.
570-028-030. In favor of the Mountains Recreation and Conservancy Authority, MRCA, as described in the March 12, 2021 letter from the MRCA that was submitted to the Board of Public Works at its hearing on March 12, 2021, and expressly agreed to at the hearing by the applicant. Ms. Thompson, are you in agreement with that condition?
Yes, I am.
Mr. Edelman and Mr. Weinstein, if you are there, are y'all in agreement with that condition?
The Conservancy, Paul Edelman, agreement with the condition. You did say Mountains Recreation and Conservatory. You didn't say Conservation Authority, but that's okay because you did say MRCA.
I'm sorry.
That's the city attorney's fault, once again. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Mr. Edelman. All right, so I would second the motion, and Commissioner Davis is also called the question. So any objections or questions or concerns or epiphanies? Vice President Garcia.
None for me, thank you.
Thank you. Any for you, Commissioner Calosa?
None for me.
All right. Any follow-up questions or concerns, President Pro Tem Davis?
No concerns for me.
Thank you, sir. All right. Hearing no concerns, this item is approved as amended and adopted forthwith. Thank you all for your time, your love, and your trouble. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank y'all. And good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thanks, y'all. And thanks for the great work. Okay, colleagues. We're going to take a 5-minute recess. We'll be back at 3:09 in the PM. Please be there. Cameras on. Masks on.
All right.
Good?
Yes, let me just, President Good, take a moment to call roll since we took a brief recess.
Got it, yes.
President Good, Vice President Garcia, President Pro Tem Davis, Commissioner Calosa, and Commissioner Villegas are present. We have a quorum, and we are joined by City Attorney Representative Ted Jordan. Again, I'm TJ Knight, Assistant Executive Officer. It is now 3:11 on March 12th.
Thank you, Mr. Knight. All right, let's go now. See what I want to do really quickly is let's go to actually let's go ahead and handle item 13. Item 13 is in CD14. This is also a tree removal. This is the 500 block East Ramirez Street, recommending the board, 1, find under the California Public Resources Code, section 21166, and the state's Environmental Quality Act, CEQA guidelines, section 15162-15164, on the basis of substantial evidence contained in the whole record that since the prior approval of the negative declaration, State Clearinghouse number 201-701-1017, there have been no changes to the project, changes with respect to the circumstances under which the project is being undertaken, or new information of substantial importance concerning the project, which cause new significant environmental effects or a substantial increase in the severity of previously identified significant effects, and therefore no subsequent ND, supplemental ND, or other analysis is required for the project. 2, specify that the Bureau of Street Services, Urban Forestry Division, located at 1149 South Broadway, is custodian of the documents or other material that constitute the record of proceedings upon which the board's decision is based. And 3, approve this fee tree removal permit request for 3 trees, which include 1 Chamel ash and 2 Indian laurel fig trees. Tree replacements are required. Do we have a comment on this item, TJ?
We do. We have one public comment, one comment submitted, a request a comment submitted already by Dr. Tom Williams. Dr. Tom Williams, if you're in the meeting, would you please press *6 to unmute yourself? Dr. Williams? Okay, so we have 2 additional callers into the meeting who have raised their hands. One caller ending in 024. Do you have a comment on item 13? Okay, caller ending in 024. Do you have your hand raised? And caller ending in 631. You have your hand raised for item 13. Do you have a comment on item 13?
You jackass, will you cut me off? Yes, I do.
Okay, please go ahead. I'm sorry, item caller ending in 631. Go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hello, this is Joanne D'Antonio, CFAC. These 2 Indian laurel fig trees, commonly called ficus, likely have about 40 years of ecosystem services that we will not ever benefit from once they are removed. Ficus trees sequester more carbon than any other tree, yet urban forestry and the city forest officer no longer have them on their species of street trees species to be planted. We are forced to remove 2 irreplaceable trees along with 3,200 tons of contaminated soil, thanks to the irresponsibility of a utility that does not have the greatest track record in the city. What is SoCal Gas paying for these trees? The tree removal request lists $349.86 for a permit fee. I don't see anything else. I just want to point out that using the ecosystem services provided by the average ficus tree is calculated on our city tree inventory conducted by Davy Tree, a professional outside company. The lost future ecosystem services of these trees amounts to about $12,320. I don't see replacement trees or tree guarantee fee on the tree removal notice. There is a tendency in our city to replant with smaller ornamental trees with far less ecosystem services. What are the required replacement trees here? And are they large trees? This should be spelled out on the tree removal notice. Irrigation should be required and no excuses of nursery stock unavailability accepted. They can be ordered from out of town. Should they resort to the tree guarantee fee, there should be $1,945 times 4 for 2-to-1 replacement as the remediation tree guarantee fee to replace 2-to-1 somewhere in Council District 14. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. D'Antonio.
So we have a caller ending in 403. Caller ending in 403, you have your hand raised for item 13. If you'd please press *6 to unmute.
Okay, now that item is about the tree, sir. Yes. And, yes, we echo the sentiments of the former human caller. Yes, $341. However, we support the amount. They're not going to use regular labor. No, they're going to use niggers to remove the tree. And they only charge a minimum wage of $2.50. See President Biden's executive order. Oh, that's right, they're importing the cheap labor. Yes, that's right. No minimum wage. So at $346, how many niggers will it take to remove this tree? They can do 30, 40 of them down there in about a half an hour. And then they clean up the garbage and put it into a dumpster. And then Mr. Jordan gets a phone call that their contractor has illegally dumped the items and pocketed the money. And Mr. Jordan has done a good job covering up this for years and years and years. That's why he went to law school. That's why all of you went to law school. Yes, to find ways to protect government corruption. And Mr. Weezer now, I have Mr. Weezer with me right now, and he would like to talk about this item briefly, if he may. Go ahead.
Yes, my name is Jose Weezer. The FBI has murdered me. I currently have no cock and balls now, and I'm facing 141 years in federal prison. I oppose this item. I think that SoCal Gas should pay every fucking penny.
No, that's wrong. Get him off the line. Okay, thank you. And then, let's go forward. Kevin De Leon is a chongo. He doesn't know a goddamn thing about his own district. So listen to Go Puppet and the other callers when we say, fuck the tree, fuck Southern California Edison, and fuck tree removal. No more tree removal.
Is that it, Mr. Knight? You're muted, TJ. TJ, you're muted.
Thank you. Sorry. We have one more caller, caller ending in 024. You've raised your hand on item 13. Do you have a comment for item 13?
Bueno? Am I on?
You are on.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
Well, minimum wage for niggers to cut trees is $15 according to the President of the United States. Why not get these niggers working? $15 is not a lot with no benefits. I'm sure they could do it in half the rate. And besides, who cares about illegal dumping? What the fuck does Kevin De Leon know about illegal dumping? Go off of Soto Morango and you'll see the illegal campsites dumped on the side of the road where they've been cutting the Indian trees for the last 2 years and using it as firewood, you jackasses. Now, as far as the budget to replace trees, you morons, Joe Biden bailed you out. Now you don't have to replace the $800 million you stole, and Mr. Jordan can get a new Tulsa car and have it drive his dumbass home after this meeting after he clears himself of the headache from the yeah, because today's meeting was just only 1 out of 10 items for the public to comprehend. So, in so many words, 42 U.S.C., 1983, Mr. Davis, fuck you, nigga. You gotta use the money to cut the trees to replace with more trees.
Please get on the item. Mr. Knight, is he done?
Yes, it sounds like he's done.
Thank you.
Yes, it sounds like he's done, President.
As a reminder to all callers, general public comment is done. Your comments must be confined to the item that is being discussed. Second, do not interrupt the meeting outside of the comment period or your opportunity to speak. Thank you. Mr. Knight, any other comments?
No, that's all the comments that we have on item 13.
Thank you. Mr. Benuelos, you want to go ahead?
Yes, good afternoon, President Good, Commissioners. Hector Banuelos, Streets LA, Urban Forestry Division. We have before us is a request for a fee permit to remove 3 trees on the 500 block of East Ramirez Street here in Council District 14. This location is between Center Street and Keller Street, and the roadway there is was analyzed through the California Department of Toxic Substances, and the Southern California Gas Company is considered to be toxic soils underneath the roadway. And so there is a cleanup sponsored by the Southern California Gas Company to clear up all the soil, and it includes basically all of the roadway of Ramirez Street, coming from Keller Street to Center Street, and the adjacent areas nearby, which includes sidewalks and parkway areas of the street, and some of the properties there almost directly under the 10 freeway, and a facility there owned by the city of Los Angeles, Piper Tech. The Ramirez Street area was historically part of the Aliso manufactured gas plant and operated between 1876 and 1927. The Aliso gas plant was owned by Southern California Gas from 1939 to 1952. And so previous investigations in 2012, 2016 found that the area is a potential source of groundwater contamination. And according to investigations, soil is contaminated under the Ramirez Street roadway in adjacent areas, and there's a potential for the contamination to reach into underground water. In order to alleviate that and mitigate, the soil needs to be removed up to about a depth of about 30 feet. And so the trees are within the footprint of the area that's designated for the cleanup, and require removal in order for the cleanup to be successful. So there was a negative declaration that was prepared by the Department of Toxic Substances that was vetted and approved by the state of California. The 2 trees are 2 Indian laurel fig trees and 1 chamois ash tree. The Indian laurel fig trees are in fair condition. The chamois ash is structurally it's not. The structure is altered for some reason or another. It's not doing particularly well, performed particularly well. But if approved, the applicant will plant 5 36-inch box-sized African fern pines on the Ramirez Street side, and then around the corner there on Keller, there's 1 Canary Island pine tree, 36-inch box-sized pine tree proposed to be planted. And the trees will be watered for a minimum of 3-year period. The Community Forestry Advisory Committee, the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment, and the Council District 14 were notified of the tree removal permit request, and Council District 14 is in support of the project and does not oppose the tree removals as part of this soil remediation work. That concludes my presentation. I'm here to answer any questions the board may have.
Thank you, Mr. Benuelos. All right, colleagues. Vice President Garcia, any questions or comments?
Thank you, President Good. Hector, quick clarification. The SoCal Gas wants to, I was just here reading the report and going through it again. They want to do some kind of a cleanup? Is that what's happening? You're on mute, Hector.
Okay. Yes, they are going to do a cleanup. The soil was analyzed and is considered to be toxic. Some contamination from the previous gas plant that was there, and there is risk that the groundwater may be contaminated if the soil continues to remain. And so the cleanup effort is sponsored by the Southern California Gas Company.
So with that said, what's going to happen to the other trees that are there?
There's only 3 trees within the footprint of the excavation work.
Oh, okay. I just went online and I saw a couple of trees, but maybe where they're gonna do the work is just in that section. Am I right?
Well, they're doing it along the whole roadway, but there's only 3 trees along that section. It kind of goes at an angle. And so there's only the 2 ficus trees that are across the street from Piper Tech. I'm not sure if you know the facility. Just immediately, I guess that would be east of the Center Street. There's two pretty good sized ficus trees that right almost directly under the freeway. And then directly across the street on the corner of of Center, and on Ramirez Street, there's a chamois ash tree that's also going to be impacted and require removal.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for that. If I have any more questions, I'll make sure to chime in again. Thank you. Thank you, President Good.
Thank you, Vice President Garcia. Commissioner Villegas.
I don't have any questions. I was briefed on this item, and I understand these are part of the things that need to do in order to get the environmental clearance and some of the contaminated soil cleaned up.
Thank you, Commissioner Davis. President Pro Tem Davis?
No further inquiry from me on this item.
All right, thank you, sir. And Commissioner Closer?
Thank you, President Good. Thank you to Ms. D'Antonio for her public comment, and appreciate her concern always for trying to save as many trees as possible. And maybe if I can just ask one follow-up question to Mr. Benuelos, but what would happen if we didn't remove these trees, Mr. Benuelos?
The soil there underneath the trees will remain contaminated and potential source for contamination to the underground groundwater.
Which would be a public health hazard, correct?
Yes, correct.
I just wanted to make that clear and point that out as well. I know there's a lot of things we're trying to balance, but we definitely want to make sure that the site is cleaned appropriately and mitigated, and it's also part of the agreement that the state executed several years ago. But that was it from my end. I don't have any other questions for Mr. Benuelos, but just wanted to emphasize that point. Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you, Commissioner Closer, and agreed. It's exceedingly germane. I mean, that is, we can't have that. And this is an unfortunate practical reality that's got to be dealt with. So I don't have any further questions. Thank you, Hector, for the briefing. Do I have a motion to move this item forward?
So move.
Who was that? Was that Commissioner Villegas? Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Vice President Garcia. Your enthusiasm is great. Any questions or final concerns, Commissioner Closer, President Pro Tem Davis?
No further from me.
Okay. Thank you, Jessica. All right, hearing no objections, the item is adopted and approved forthwith. Thank you, Hector, for giving us so much time this afternoon. Good work, as always.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ms. D'Antonio, if she's still on there, for jumping in. Appreciate it. Okay, colleagues, we're going to just take a couple of things out of order. As a reminder, 14, we continued for a week. I'd like to take item 17, and then we'll move back up the agenda. Item 17 is a release of stop payment notice for Catalina Pacific Concrete. Catalina Pacific Concrete is transmitting a release of stop payment notice and a release of commencement of action in the amount of $27,464.43, and as originally filed on July 20, 2018, for furnishing ready mix, aggregate, asphalt, precast cement, and/or building materials in connection with the Machado Lake Pipeline project. The primary contractor is my Boogaloo Construction Company, Inc. TJ, this is just administrative, so we don't have a presentation on this, correct?
Yes, that is correct, President.
Okay. Move item 17 forward. Vice President Garcia. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Villegas. Any objections or concerns, Commissioner Colosa or President Pro Tem Davis?
No additional concerns for me.
All right. Hearing no concerns or objections, item 17 is adopted forthwith. Now, let's go back up to item 15. Item 15 is in CD 15. This is a contract acceptance, Machado Lake Pipeline Project. I'm recommending the board, one, accept this contract. Work order SZC 13025. This is continued from Friday, February 26th board meeting. Who's here to present this? Is this Mr. Bagby?
That is correct.
Hello, Roosevelt. How are you, sir?
I am outstanding.
Great. All right. Proceed, please.
All right. Good afternoon, President Good, Commissioners, Bureau Executive, City Attorney, and Executive Officer. I am Roosevelt Bagby with the Bureau of Contract Administration, and we are recommending the acceptance of this contract, Machado Lake Pipeline Project, work order number SZC 13025, contract number C128781. On January 4th, 2017, this board executed a contract with Mike Bubalo Construction Company Incorporated, and on April 11th, 2019, this work was complete. This project is in a harbor area in Council District 15, and what it provided was nearly 3,300 lineal feet of 24-inch water line, which will convey recycled water between Terminal Island Water Reclamation Plant and Machado Lake. The cost for this project, it was awarded at $4,255,100 with a contingency of $851,020, which provided us with a final authorized budget of $5,106,120. We issued 8 change orders on this project, which increased the contract amount by $53,094.72, which gave us a final contract amount of $4,308,194.72. This project was completed at 1.25% above the awarded amount and 15.63% below the authorized budget. 11/2019, all final corrections were completed by the contractor, and on April 26, $82,847.70 were released in retained funds. The project funding was through DWP. We received those through our wastewater capital improvement budget. The contractor's performance report have been submitted. The contractor has complied with the equal employment opportunity and labor compliance requirements of this contract. There are no unresolved property owners or owner complaints in connection with this project. And there are no disputes, withheld funds, no funds due to the contractor. The Bureau of Contract Administration recommends acceptance of this contract.
Thank you, Mr. Bagby. Do I have any questions or comments? Commissioner Closa?
Thanks, President Good. Thank you for your presentation, Mr. Bagby. I just had one question. I was just looking at the subcontractor utilization numbers, and I saw there's a big difference between the pledged amount and the achieved amount. It says here that there's about they only achieved 16% less, it looks like, from what they had pledged. Can you kind of speak to that?
I apologize. I cannot. I can research that and get that information back to you.
Okay. Yeah, I know this project, and you guys have dealt with other issues with this, and there have been progress payments paid in the past few years, and this was not a straightforward project by any means for your team. But it would just be great just to get a follow-up email afterward just to better understand what happened there.
Can you pose that question one more time to make sure I research the correct information?
Sure. I just wanted to get additional information about the difference between the pledged subcontractor utilization numbers and then the actual achieved amounts in the table that's listed here on, I believe it's page 2 of the board report. So there's a difference of over $300,000 from the pledged and achieved amounts. If we could just understand why, if we can follow up after.
Absolutely. I will get that for the board.
Thank you, Commissioner Coloso. President Pro Tem Davis?
No further inquiries for me.
All right, thank you, sir. Vice President Garcia?
No questions from me either. Thank you.
Okie doke. And Commissioner Villegas?
None for me either. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. I have no questions, Mr. Bagley. Thank you. Pretty clear and appreciate it. So
President Good, before we go to what you're going to say next, we do have 2 callers who've raised their hands. I just want to make sure to address if they have comments on item 15, with your approval.
You had said that. I'm sorry. Yeah, please.
So caller ending in 024, you've raised your hand on item 15. Do you have comment on item 15? Please press *6.
Is he above his 10-minute limit?
Not yet.
How many more seconds do we have pending?
For
024.
For 024, he's only used 2 minutes.
Commissioner, I believe 024 is Mr. Herman. Mr. Spindler was calling from a different line, although correctly, they may be sharing phones too. We're doing the best we can.
Caller ending in 024, please press *6 to unmute. Okay, we have another caller ending in 403. Please press *6 to unmute if you have a comment on item 15.
Yes, I sense anger in the lady's voice, so I'll limit my comments here to 18.1 seconds. I hate to say this, sir, but I think they did a very good job on this. I have to agree. So, amazingly, we support the item. Good job. Thank you so much. Thank you. No, thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Knight. Do I have a motion to approve the item?
So move.
Thank you, President Pro Tem Davis. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Commissioner Coloso. Any objections or concerns, Commissioner Villegas or Vice President Garcia?
None for me.
All right, item 17, hearing no objections, item 17 is approved and adopted forthwith. That brings us to, we have one more administrative item, and that is item 16. This is for all council districts, and this is communication from the mayor to the Board of Public Works relative to the approval waiver from cost containment and authority to issue second notice to proceed for the remaining 9-month service period to each of the 4 Bureau of Street Services median island landscape maintenance contracts, which were originally approved on September 30, 2020 for a 3-month period. I'm just kind of realizing Mr. Schlager has been here, and I think it's for this item. Although I don't think unless do you want to say anything? Because I think we can, this is really just
I'm just here in support of all the items. We're making sure that there's no issues you need from Streets LA.
And enjoy your meeting, no less, I'm sure.
If you need discussion of this, we do have our staff here, Assistant Director Stephanie Clements, and also Rose is here as well from our Financial Management Division.
Thank you, Martin. Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you, Rose. Sorry to kept you so long. I will move to accept and receive this item. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Villegas. Any concerns or objections or questions, Commissioners Coloso, President Pro Tem Davis, or Vice President Garcia?
None for me.
Okay. Hearing no objections, the item is received and filed. So with that, That brings us to item 18, and we have update on major upcoming street improvement projects. Who do we have here from Streets LA to give us the update today? George Watson, is that you?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Good afternoon, President Good. How you doing today?
Good, Mr. Watson. How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic.
Great.
So again, good afternoon, President Good, commissioners, your representatives, city attorney, executive office. My name is George Watson, superintendent from Streets LA. This information is being provided to keep the public informed on the upcoming resurfacing projects and to minimize the impact on the community as well as the delays to the commuters. Streets LA would like to provide you with an update on all major upcoming streets improvement projects. The following major street projects are scheduled in the Metro Resurfacing region for the week of March 21st, 2021 through March 27, 2021. Monday, March 22nd, 2021 through Tuesday, March 23rd, 2021 from 6:30 a.m. to 3 p.m. we will cold mill surface prep and pave Cesar Chavez from North Broadway to Cesar Chavez South Broadway. In CD1, Historic Culture, North Neighborhood Council, Haven Preservation Program. Tuesday, March 23rd, 2021 through Thursday, March 25th, 2021 from 6:30 a.m. to 3 p.m. we'll cold mill surface prep and pave Hollywood Boulevard from Fairfax Avenue to Laurel Canyon Boulevard. And CD4, Hollywood Hills, West Neighborhood Council, Haven Preservation Program. Saturday, March 20, 2021 through Sunday, March 21, 2021 from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. we will cold mill surface prep and pave Main Street from Vernon Avenue to Slauson Avenue and City 9, Zapata Key Neighborhood Council, Haven Preservation Program. Additionally, we will provide you with an update on 2021 Pavement Preservation Program. During the week of March 21, 2021 through March 27, 2021, the Metro region will complete 12 projects for a total of 9.7 lane miles. The following major projects are scheduled in the Valley Resurfacing region during the week of March 21, 2021 through March 27, 2021. Tuesday, March 23rd, 2021 through Tuesday, March 30th, 2021 from 6:30 a.m. to 3 p.m. we will cold mill surface prep and pave Plummer Street from Willie Avenue to San Diego Freeway and CD 12, North Hills West Neighborhood Council, Haven Preservation Program. Wednesday, March 24th, 2021 through Wednesday, March 31st, 2021 from 6:30 a.m. to 3 p.m. we will cold mill surface prep and pave Plummer Street from San Diego Freeway to Burnett Avenue and CD 7, North Hills East Neighborhood Council, Haven Preservation Program. Additionally, we will provide an update on the 2021 Haven Preservation Program. During the week of March 21 to 2021 through March 27, 2021, the Valley region will complete 9 projects for a total of 7.25 lane miles. The press release was broadcasted and a notification has been issued. Streets LA has coordinated with the council district to assist with the outreach to the stakeholders and will have coordinated with the Los Angeles Department of Transportation for traffic control assistance. This information is also available on the Streets LA website, www.streetsla and lacity.org. For additional information or concerns, you can contact Sherrod Nichols at 213-847-3200. Again, I appreciate you guys for allowing me to have my presentation, and this concludes my presentation.
Thanks, George. Anybody have any questions? President Pro Tem Davis?
Yeah, just an informational inquiry. In terms of the number that you gave and the person that you gave us the name of, is that person available for every area or just for your region in the Hollywood area?
He's available for the Metro and the Valley region.
Okay, but I had a constituent to call that was in South LA area, apparently on Halldale, where in fact you all are doing a lot of, and I know that's not your area, but they were asking questions as to what our vision, our goal is, and what we're doing in that area. So I will give them this number, and hopefully they'll be able to help them to know all of what we're doing, because apparently you've done some work, and then there's other things that you're doing. They asked me, and of course, I don't know the details. So this is a helpful number for me to forward on to a constituent.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, President Pro Tem Davis. Commissioner Villegas?
Thank you. I appreciate your report. A lot of activity going on this weekend. I don't have any questions. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Villegas. President Pro Tem Vice President Garcia?
No questions from me. Thank you very much.
Okay, and Commissioner Closer?
No questions for me. Have a nice weekend, Mr. Watson.
Okay, you too.
Ditto. Thanks for the report, George. Really appreciate it, and have a great weekend, okay?
Okay, you too. Thanks, sir.
All right, great. Thank you. All right. Mr. Knight, does that clear the decks of items agendized?
Yes, it does, President.
Okay. All right. Commissioner Villegas is going to provide an adjourning motion today. We will not do management afterwards. We will do.
Disappointed.
Commissioner Villegas, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I am going to adjourn in the memory of Mrs. Suni Moreno Garcia, and she was an employee with the City of Los Angeles for 31 years. Suni Garcia passed away on February 19th, 2021. Suni originally joined the City of Los Angeles as a clerk typist on October 23rd, 1989 with the Bureau of Contract Administration, and then was promoted to senior clerk typist on September 8th, 1991 with the Bureau of Engineering. Suni later promoted to principal clerk in September 2004 and worked in the BOE's purchasing section for 15 years, and she was responsible for overseeing a lot of the activity related to purchasing functions bureau-wide. So she yielded a lot of responsibility. Suni recently retired under the city's separation incentive program on February 13, 2021. She was a dedicated daughter, a sister, a wife, a mother, an aunt, a cousin, and friend to many in the City of Los Angeles family. She grew up in Lincoln Heights, attended both Sacred Heart Elementary School and Sacred Heart High School. She organized countless events for charity and did so while being a wife and a mother. She never turned down any request to help in whatever capacity she could. She leaves behind her loving husband, Tony, her daughters, Marisol and Sarah, as well as her son, Mark Anthony, who is currently working in his PhD at UC Santa Barbara. She gave her heart to her family, her church, and to her community. Unfortunately, in light of this extinguish, she left us way too soon, and she will be truly missed. And her memory will live close with many in her honor. Thank you, and we adjourn in her memory.
Thank you, Commissioner. Terrible side. Thank you. Any final comments or questions, Commissioners Colosa, Vice President Garcia, President Pro Tem Davis?
None for me.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Villegas. This meeting is officially adjourned.
I know that we have some of her friends and colleagues on.
Oh gosh, I didn't realize that. Okay, so Commissioner Villegas, please, you're the facilitator.
No, I just wanted to make that reference that this is especially heartfelt since we have some of her friends and colleagues on the call as well.
I see. Would anybody like to speak?
This is, let me go ahead and, my name is Lupe Valdez, and I know her family's on, so I don't know if Sarah wants to say a few words, but she was a friend since first grade, so we've known each other a long time. So this is very, very special in her honor, And we are so thrilled that you were able to do this for her. And like I said, I don't know if Sarah Garcia wants to speak, but I do know all her family's on the line. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lupe, and thank you very much, commissioners, for leaving some time, some room here at the end of this meeting to honor my mom's life. My mom was extremely proud to go into work every day. She was always proud to tell people she worked for the city of Los Angeles. You know, she stayed for 31 years, so she obviously loved her job very much. She absolutely loved her coworkers and just beamed at pride at being part of the City of LA family. And on the part of my family, Garcia family, we would like to thank you again for holding this space for us as we hear you honor my mom. And I also happen to work for the City of Los Angeles now, which is hilarious because when my mom was alive, she'd always say, "You should apply for the city, you should apply for the city." And me being the stubborn middle child that I am, always said, "No, I'm never gonna do that." And look at me now, because mom is always right. So again, thank you so much for honoring my mom, and I can only aspire to be half the woman, half the employee, half the friend that she was. Thank you very much on behalf of our family.
Thank you, Ms. Garcia.
Thank you.
Would anyone else like to speak? Okay, well, we are certainly lesser as a city as the result of this loss, and we're equally grateful for y'all to give us some time to let us as a city say goodbye and take just a moment to honor your mom, Sarah. So thank you, and thank you for your service, obviously. So, okay, with that, our meeting is adjourned. Thank you, Commissioner Biggs. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Everyone have safe, pleasant weekends. Thank you all.